Hey guys, today's video is about Bitcoin and whether you should be thinking about buying Bitcoin right now. So as of today's date, Bitcoin is worth about $30,000. I think it's about $30,600. Now for those of you that may not know, Bitcoin is a type of cryptocurrency. There are various, but Bitcoin is the most well known. You've probably heard of it. It's basically just a digital currency. There aren't physical bitcoins like there are dollars, but Bitcoin, it's over the last 3 years the price of Bitcoin has increased dramatically. Now if you go back to the first person that actually bought Bitcoin, the first purchase made with Bitcoin, it was a guy that bought a pizza worth $40 with 10,000 Bitcoins. So obviously at the time Bitcoin had little to no value, and had he kept those 10,000 Bitcoins, he'd have about $300 million today. So probably regrets eating that pizza. Now there's various stories of similar things happening where people have mined Bitcoins, have had Bitcoins in the hard drives, people have took them out, and if they'd have had those Bitcoins right now, they'd have absolute, hundreds of millions, which obviously it's a shame that they don't, but can't go back in time. Nobody knew that Bitcoin would blow up, as much as it has. Same with Tesla and Amazon, over the last year, huge increases in the stock prices. Now with Bitcoin, one thing to note is there are only 21 million Bitcoins that can exist. And at the moment 18.5 million Bitcoins have been mined. So there's not many more that can be found, and because Bitcoin is it's a limited resource, there are only 21 million that will ever exist. That's likely to push the value up there when no more can be found. So the price at the moment, as I said before, it's $30,000. As of the 8th of January, Bitcoin was at its highest, and it was actually at over $40,000. Now it has dropped dramatically in the last 10-15 days or so. We're down $10,000 now. But if you look back, in 2018 Bitcoin shot up to about $20,000. Then it dropped back down to $3,000, and it stayed about that sort of level for the next year or so. So it didn't shoot back up straight away, and then when we got into 2020, at the start of October, that's when Bitcoin started to increase again. So it went from 10, 11, 12, 13, just shot up in very quickly from October onwards. Up to 8th of January, where it hit 40,000, and now it's going back down again. So is it a good time to buy Bitcoin right now? Well, if you look at as I said, over the last 3 years or so, Bitcoin tends to shoot up in value, then it drops down quite quickly, and then it stays that way for a while, and then it shot up in value even more than before. So what you can thinking about that, if history repeats itself, what's likely to happen is Bitcoin will drop down now, and perhaps not as low as before, down to sort of 3,000. Perhaps now we'll see a new low of around 6,000 or so. That's what I think. That's my personal estimate. I think it will go down to $6,000 or $7,000, and it will stay that way for a while. With a little bit of variation here and there, and then over the next 2 or 3 years we'll see another spike again, and it will perhaps hit an even higher amount. Now if you'd have bought Bitcoin when it was $3,000, if you'd have put a decent amount of money in there, $100,000, $200,000, you'd be looking at a huge amount of money earned right now. Now it is risky, of course, because it is just a virtual currency, but in many ways that's also better, because if you think about currencies, they're always changing, and because of inflation, the buying power of any currency will go down over time. That's why prices go up with inflation. You know, the dollars are just not worth as much as they were, 20 years ago. We see that, in house prices and things. When I was young, my parents bought a house for 50,000, and now the houses cost 200,000. So, everything changes with inflation. And now, Bitcoin, I'm not saying it's completely inflation proof, but it is kind of, it gives you a certain amount of protection, just because if you think about, if you live, for example, in Europe, and your currency is euros, and you can see that the economy is going to, absolutely tank. So you could put all your money in dollars. You could just buy tons of dollars right now, and then if the economy does drop down, you'll still have value in those dollars, even if your euros are worth nothing, because you've already bought the dollars, at a good time. So if you bought, for example, at the moment, 100,000, 200,000 worth of Bitcoin, which isn't many Bitcoins at the minute, and then, the dollar dropped down, a fortune, it'd be safe there in Bitcoin, because you could then, transfer that out into another currency. So you could change those Bitcoins then into euros or pounds or whatever currency you want. It's just a safe currency. That's one of the reasons that I'm a bit of a fan of Bitcoin. Now, at the moment, really, should you invest? I don't think so. Yes, it's gone down $10,000, but it hasn't gone down enough for me personally to warrant investing at $30,000 of Bitcoin. I mean, not that long ago it was 3,000. So even though it has dropped down 10, in a matter of days, I would really hold off from investing in Bitcoin. There's no hurry really. I know it's very, it's in the news at the moment really. But just hold off, wait a while, and try and sort of, work out when it's at a new low. See once the price drops, if it gets down to, 6,000-7,000, and it stays about that for, 6 months, then that's probably as low as it's going to go. That's what you need to look at really. Just follow the price of the Bitcoin. Once it's dropped down, if it stays, at a certain amount for a good while, that's when I think you should buy. I will buy around 6,000-7,000 if it does get that low. It may not, it may stay higher than that. But what you can see from Bitcoin is it fluctuates, a huge amount. I mean, from only the 8th of January, in less than 15 days, it's dropped $10,000, which, a quarter of its value. It's tanked. Now, yes, it did increase, dramatically in the space of, 2 months. But, for me now is not the time to buy. Just hold on a little bit longer, let it drop, and then once you do buy, you want to hold that Bitcoin. Now, I'm not saying hold it forever, but if you put in, for example, 100,000, and you buy it when it costs 6,000 a Bitcoin or something like that, if the price then over the next within the next 3 or 4 years, if it then goes up, again to sort of 40, 50,000, around that area, then you want to sell 90% of your Bitcoin, and then just keep perhaps 10%, perhaps $10,000 in there, just in case it goes crazy high, and you can just hold that 10,000 then. If I'm talking theoretically, if you had 100,000 or so spare, obviously you can use lower amounts. You could do the same with 10,000, just keep 1,000 in. But yeah, my suggestion is to wait till the price drops down. I think it will. I think we'll get down to about 6,000-7,000, and that will be the best time to buy. And then just hold then and wait for the next spike, as we've seen over the last, within the last 3 years. There's been 2 huge spikes of Bitcoin prices, so it's very likely to happen again. And you've just got to wait. So give the video a like, guys. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.